Hello everybody, this is Styx with the Token Minorities, bringing you the Week 8 weekly recap for the GBA, and I apologize for the lack of a weekly recap in Week 7. I was taking the MCAT, and so I was trying to get somebody to replace me, and somewhere along the line there was a little confusion, no pun intended, and we all knew that the confusion wasn't capable of handling it on his own, so something just kind of got lost in translation and we didn't end up having one. So we have decided that we're just going to be doubly as awesome this week to make up for it. And as the pun suggests from earlier, joining me as always is my beautiful co-host.
What is going on, GBA? I am the Confusion, and I also have to apologize that there wasn't a weekly recap last week, but we're going to put that behind us because it is behind us and get right into Week 8.
Well, not right into Week 8. Looking at some of the comments, I noticed that you guys have been commenting a little bit about the grief that I give the Confusion. I would just like to let you guys know that this is all in good fun. I mean, we do like each other, at least I think we do.
Yeah,
not completely
guys,
sure on that.
It's for fun. Like, you don't have to take it too seriously.
Yeah.
This is just a little, we try to throw our little, personality into this weekly recap. Of course, we are recapping the battles of the GBA, so we're just trying to throw a little bit of fun in there in the beginning. You don't have to take it too hard. What's the term? So
harshly, I don't know. But either way, I would just like to say that if we were using return against each other, it would have a full 102 base power. So just making sure that is clear. But
well,
without
I don't
further
know.
ado,
I would have 101 base power. I mean,
well, that's you. That's because there's a glitch. You caught missing no or something. But anyway, going into the first battle of the week, we have Real Maril, coached by Miguel, versus the Borussia Donphan, coached by Lars. I can never say that right. I'll get it at some point. Real Maril brought Mega Blastoise, Roserade, Uxie, Zebstrika, Primeape, and Talonflame, while the Donphan brought Crawdaunt, Scizor, Druddigon, Raichu, Vaporeon, and Mega Alakazam. Despite the potential of Druddigon and Vaporeon to provide decent checks to it, it's hard to deny that Smogbird really had the potential to do major damage to Lars' team, and for those of you who don't know who Smogbird is, that is Talonflame. In the battle, the combination of Shadow Ball from Mega Alakazam and Rough Skin plus Rocky Helmet heavily damaged the Uxie, Miguel's really only check to Mega Alakazam, to the point that Mega Azam had no switch-ins from that point on. Sub HP Fire Roserade caught Lars off guard as it was able to nab a KO on the Scizor before being forced out, but luckily for Miguel, Scarf Primeape was able to slow down Mega Alakazam's tirade and keep it in check for later. With Vaporeon gone, Lars was forced to keep Druddigon healthy, which was a relatively tall order given that it was poisoned with no means of recovery and it didn't have leftovers or anything like that, but I guess that goes with the means of recovery. And while Rough Skin plus Rocky Helmet and Recoil took its toll on the Talonflame, Talonflame was just really able to clean up the game, and I would like to point out that while Lars had an excellent idea with HP Flying Alakazam to try to outspeed the Gale Wings of Talonflame, Hidden Power did not work with Gale Wings, allowing Talonflame to clean up the game. So I mean, that's just kind of one of those things that you look at and you're like, oh, it definitely should work, but it just doesn't due to some weird mechanics in the game.
yeah, I think that definitely the highlight of this game, in my opinion, was a sub Roserade. That thing put in a lot of work once it was behind a sub. It easily got those subs up against the Vaporeon. Of course, he could have done it again, but predictions and stuff. I think the Roserade was just a great bring. Really put a lot of hurt and a lot of pressure onto the Donphan's team, to which other Pokemon like the Primeape and Talonflame could really get in there and clean up afterwards. I think the HP Flying to trace the Gale Wings from Talonflame was just, it was a brilliant move, and of course, like you just said, I don't know, but it was a brilliant move, I think, and I was so sad to see that not work. I've actually tried that myself in competitive play before, and so when I saw the team builder and saw that's what he was bringing, I was so like, ugh, I know that doesn't work, so I hope that doesn't come into play. It did, apparently, and actually ended up costing him the match. I think the game would have went differently if he threw that HP Flying up against the Talonflame, but still a great game between the two. An awesome game to watch. So let's just move into the next game, which is the San Diego Gym Chargers versus the Pittsburgh Piratas. MV brought Donphan, Togekiss, Gyarados, Keldeo, Mega Ampharos, and Sneasel, while the Pittsburgh Piratas brought Rotom Heat, Azelf, Tentacruel, Tangrowth, Hippowdon, and Excadrill. Immediately, this game turned from a 6 vs 6 to a 6 vs 5 as Sneasel gets a really quick knockoff kill onto the Azelf. But after that, the game was pretty much set up, kill something, and then die. Like, that's pretty much what everything was doing. The Togekiss got to set up a nasty plot up against the Hippowdon, send Baton Pass it into the Keldeo, get a clean prediction and kill off the Tentacruel, and then kind of die itself with a Earthquake. And that's pretty much what happened over and over again. Then we have the Excadrill coming in, Swords Dancing. That's basically just back and forth between the two. Once Mega Ampharos got in, it just put in a lot of pressure with Magnarize. Obviously, we saw the dual Magnarize with not only Mega Ampharos carrying it to kind of sit in front of the Hippowdon, but the Excadrill bringing it to sit in front of the Donphan. So it's pretty cool to see them kind of prep in the same mindset. So that was pretty cool to see. Mega Ampharos got to have the better advantage in that, though, because they got to do a lot of damage to the Hippowdon with 2 Dragon Pulses, since the Stone Edges, even though they were Earthquake, the Stone Edges ended up missing. And then also killing off the Rotom Heat, as the Rotom Heat's Overheat really couldn't kill it off. After that, it was a really cool prediction on Envy's part to see him. Like, most people think, oh, he just has Pokemon that can set up and sweep. He's a great, predictor. He predicts the Excadrill switching out into the Hippowdon. He plays on that. And then towards the end, instead of switching out the Gyarados to get a second Intimidate, he just straight up Waterfalls and kills the Excadrill to clean up that match, which was, again, another prediction that was well played. So, just a great match from the both of them. They both played really, really well, and I think just a great match.
Oh, most certainly. I mean, as a hyper-offense, enthusiast myself, I mean, this was a match that I could just, sit back and grab a thing of popcorn, although I wouldn't be able to finish half of it by the time this match got done. But really, what kind of threw me for a loop was the fact that Tup stayed in turn 1 against a Sneasel when Azelf was not Focus Sashed. And I mean, I can understand some logic behind that, but either way, if you have an Azelf against a Sneasel turn 1, I don't think, unless you're Choice Scarf, or Focus Sash, that you do not risk the Speed Tie that early on. So I mean, he just lost his Azelf right off the bat, and that was something that really could have done some very solid damage. So I was curious to the full thought process behind that. I disagreed with that, and that immediately put Tup at a disadvantage, which in a hyper-offensive game like that, where you're getting kills every other turn, losing a Mon immediately without it doing anything at all is absolutely huge. Anyway, jumping on over to the next game, we have the San Jose Sharpedos versus the Utah Jasmine. Tom brought Sylveon, Starmie, Milotic, Sock, Tyrantrum, and Gligar, while Coop brought Sableye, Greninja, Clefable, Magnezone, Empoleon, and Weezing. At Team Preview, I was really, really excited to see that Tom had actually brought one of my favorite competitive Pokemon of all time in Tyrantrum. Given its set, it actually looked like Tyrantrum had a really solid shot at doing some work in this game. An early +2/+2 pass from Gligar to Sock gave Tom some really early power, as Sock was able to use Mold Breaker to absolutely just mow down that Weezing and heavily damage the Sableye. Fortunately for Coop, Double Willow averted the 6-0 and gave him a second life, and let's be real, we all know how fickle Will-O-Wisp can be. If he missed any single one of those, it would have just been a clean sweep from Sock at that point. Full turn pressure from Coop was able to get him a couple KOs mid-game while providing some nice momentum, but a Mirror Coat Milotic was able to knock out the Empoleon on the switch, really just kind of eliminating any potential switch-ins to Sylveon late game. I mean, I know he still had Magnezone, but Magnezone doesn't exactly switch into Sylveon. A nice and boring stall session between Cosmic Power and Clefable. Cosmic Power, Clefable, and Milotic allowed me to step away from the computer, finish up a couple job applications before anything of real consequence happened in the endgame. Eventually, Coop switched in his Magnezone, which allowed Tom to get another kill with Mirror Coat Milotic, and from there, Tyrantrum was able to set up a DD on a choice-locked Magnezone and sweep the rest of the game.
I think Tom's prep was beautiful on his part. I think even though the Utah Jasmine were playing very well in the actual match, I think Tom prepped so well, bringing a Gligar that could take hits from the Empoleon or the Magnezone, whatever it be, set up that Baton Pass and throw it into something else, like the Tyrantrum or the Sock. Unfortunately, the Sock had to get burned twice, which it's really, you can't say unfortunately. It's better, that it doesn't get hacks than it does. So that's what was supposed to happen. Let's assume Will-O-Wisp should have hit. So competitively, that's really what should have happened. Good thing he brought a Specs army. Awesome bring. I loved seeing Specs army put in a lot of work, especially with that analytic Scald coming through and just destroying. Later on afterwards, you saw that Tyrantrum put in a lot of work, which is always cool because you don't see Tyrantrum, unless you're laddering on the RU ladder, do work. So pretty cool to see it on his team get nice 2 kills in a 3-0. So let's move into the next match, which is the Atlanta Haluchas versus the San Francisco Arcanines. So Fizz brought Mega Scissor, Halucha, Heliolisk, Whimsicott, Porygon 2, and Zoroark, while the San Francisco Arcaniners brought Manaphy, Infernape, Mamoswine, Nidoqueen, Electabuzz, and Snorlax. Now, personally, I feel like this match was pretty much just a battle between Electabuzz and Halucha. I don't know why, but I don't know, I just saw it as that. Whenever Electabuzz came in, Halucha had to switch out, and then whenever Halucha came in, he pretty much had to sack something, which happened most of the time. Some key moments were obviously the Babiri Berry Mamoswine taking that Bullet Punch from the Mega Scissor and just helping get rid of a huge threat. I think the prediction with Manaphy towards the late game was also huge, predicting the Focus Blast from that Heliolisk, as I believe it was locked into that. Because that was just a beautiful prediction on his part, staying in on that Heliolisk, gave him a lot of momentum, and allowed Electabuzz to just come in every single time. You would think that this Tier 5 Pokemon would not be such a huge threat, but it posed such a huge threat. Volt switching, being able to outspeed the Halucha and kill it off towards the end of the battle. A really great game, just awesome to witness. Manaphy taking hits as a defensive Pokemon. Zoroark, he actually saw the Zoroark and switched out instead of getting Sucker Punch. So I know I'm just going everywhere, but the plays in this game were exceptional. So just an awesome game.
Oh yeah, it was an awesome game from both sides. I mean, you have the prediction with the Manaphy. I mean, you have the Babiri Berry Mamoswine, then you have like the Psychic Whimsicott, all of whom were really just what draft style is all about. I mean, it's something that you wouldn't see in competitive play, but that people are making use of in a still competitive, very, very competitive format. And I do have to point out that the double Focus Blast on the Manaphy, the double Focus Blast miss on the Manaphy was a bit unfortunate, but I'm not sure exactly how much it would have impacted the game because I don't know the calcs off the top of my head, but I know that Snorlax could have definitely taken a hit and taken it down the Heliolisk or the Halucha on the switch, which would have allowed to Electabuzz to clean up anyway. So either way, very offensive game. Great to see high-level play from both players. And now we are going to the next match between Tampa Bay Luxrays and the Mew Castle, well, not the Mew Castle United. I do this every week, don't I? And Mew Castle United, Mono brought Excelgor, Piloswine, however you want to say it, Bronzong, Mandibuzz, Megamanectric, and Azumarill, while Fufu brought Kyurem, Suicune, Dragonite, Crocodile, and Crobat. And team preview, nothing really stuck out to me, so I was looking forward to a relatively solid and close match, and oh, believe me, I was rewarded. Kyurem was able to do some major damage to Mono early on with Shadow Ball for Bronzong and HP Grass for Piloswine, just taking a huge KO and getting some huge damage off later in the game. But some fortunate Sleep Talks from Suicune allowed Fufu to 1v1 a Power-Up Punch Azumarill with Rest Suicune, which gave him a 6-4 advantage. And I do wonder if he had even just gotten like a Calm Mind or a Rest. I mean, he got so lucky on those Sleep Talks. I mean, I think, what was it, like a 1 in 9 chance of doing something solid, I think it was, to the Azumarill and allowing it to beat it 1v1. But
yeah, 2 HP Grass, right?
Yeah. But despite Life Orb Excelgor giving Mono somewhat of a last-ditch grasp at victory, Scarf Dragonite was just able to clean up the game for Fufu in a really quick and offensive match.
Well, I think this game was so great in the beginning, but definitely I think Fu played amazing. I just want to point that out. He played an amazing game. His predictions were on point. He was playing very, very well as the Luxrays, but I feel like the Luxrays were playing a little bit more predictable. I think he did, as much as people want to say he didn't, I think he did underestimate Fu on his prediction game, especially towards the end when the Dragonite messing around with getting intimidated by the Mega Manectric. Fu knew exactly what he had to do to make sure that Dragonite can come in and finish up the game by killing Mega Manectric and the Excelgor with that Scarf and Outrage. So I think you gotta give props to this man for playing an amazing game. His predictions were on point the entire time, and just got to give him props. But talking about a quick game, ready for the quickest, this is the battle between the Philadelphia Scissors versus the New York Metapods. Scissors brought Chestnut. Right? That's it? Oh no, he also brought Scolipede, Mega Diancie, Tornadus T, Aerodactyl, Encophagrigus, or Cophagrigus. And the New York Metapods brought Mega Altaria, Chansey. Wait, I thought he just brought Chansey. Oh no, he also brought Rotom Wash, Skuntank, Ferrothorn, and Galvantula. So basically what I'm trying to point out is the game did start out with Rotom Wash up against the Cophagrigus. Volt switching out the Rotom Wash allowed the Chansey to come in and basically be what Chansey is known to be, which is setup fodder. Scolipede came in, threw up a bunch of speed boosts, threw it into the Chestnut, it belly drummed, and the game was finished after that with the coverage of Iron Head, Drain Punch, and I know he didn't have grass coverage. What was his last coverage?
What was it?
Right?
Write it down. Whatever. I mean, either way, there's plenty of coverage.
He had great coverage to pretty much sweep up the rest of the game. So, I mean, that was it. This was a belly drum sweep, a straight 6-0, Chestnut with 6 straight kills, and all of Dan's Pokemon going down. There's not that much to say about this match, but it was interesting. You don't see it that often, especially in such competitive play, to see one Pokemon just set up. You would think that Dan wouldn't allow a Pokemon that seems as such fodder. Chansey is known for being fodder. If it doesn't break subs with the Seismic Toss, it is going to be fodder for a Pokemon to set up. It has been done so many times, and not just in this league, in so many leagues. So Chansey is fodder. He took advantage of this. So a lot of props, not just, Dan being, it's unfortunate, but a lot of props to Chimp and the Philadelphia Scissors. The prep on that was amazing to see a belly drum Chestnut with the speed just take the game. So props to that. Great game.
Yeah, I mean, the first time through, I had to watch this twice because, I blinked the first time and then the game was over. But, I took 2 lines of notes on this game. It was like Chestnut plus Chansey equals sweep. So, that was really it. Great prep. It's just one of those things that if you don't expect, particularly a belly drum and a speed boost of some sort being passed to it, then that will just clean up the game. So, that was prime example of that. I know Dan is a great player and he'll be able to bounce back. So I look forward to see what he does next week. Jumping into, honestly, the most exciting battle from my perspective. I really, really did like this one, and it was the Milwaukee Saucebucks coached by Steve versus the Boston Red Sox coached by Nick. Milwaukee brought Saucebuck, Mega Pinsir, Sandslash, Honchkrow, Slowbro, and Electivire, while Boston brought Jolteon, Lantern, Skarmory, Mega Venusaur, Kyurem, and Pangoro. Now, a team preview, I feel like one thing and one thing only needs to be said. Kyurem. Is that pretty much it? That pretty much cover everything that you need to look at team preview for? Because he had no switch-ins at all, and Kyurem just had the potential to do absolute work. But a scout-heavy early game led to a Pokemon not even going down until turn 17, but man, was that a sexy turn. Steve predicted the switch from Mega Venusaur into a Skarmory and was able to take it out with a +1 Wild Charge. Granted, it was a crit, but I really don't think it mattered, as Saucebuck would have been able to take down the Skarmory next turn anyway. Saucebuck proceeded to then go on a tirade as it took down Pangoro, Mega Venusaur, and Kyurem, but unfortunately, Agility Kyurem was able to just almost completely reverse sweep, leading to a showdown between Jolteon and Slowbro, which Slowbro simply does not win, and unfortunately he couldn't get a roll with Psychic, which led to a double down, but Nick took the victory due to a Life Orb tiebreaker.
I think I just want to say one thing, which is Saucebuck killed a Mega Venusaur, a Kyurem Black, a Pangoro, and a Skarmory. Now, if that doesn't say something about the Milwaukee Saucebucks, then I really don't know what. Like, Steve or Battler X, or I don't know what you guys still believe anymore. I don't know. But
his name is Santa Claus.
Basically, because he brought presents to all those Pokemon. Saucebuck, you don't see, again, just like Electabuzz, you don't see a Pokemon this low in the tiering system, a tier 5 Pokemon, get 4 kills on Pokemon like that. And that was such a ballsy play too. He could have been Sludge Bombed and killed, but he came in on the Giga Drain with only +1, killed all those Pokemon with the combination of Jump Kick, Return, and Wild Charge. A great game, even though it got turned back, and a set-up Lantern got to finish off that game. Jolteon getting the other half of the kills, but an awesome match. So let's jump into the last match of Week 8, which is the complete opposite of Dan vs. Chimp, which is a battle that actually went out of the timer. Of course, this is the battle between the San Francisco Giants and the New Orleans Pelipers. The Giants brought their Entei, Granbull, Ditto, Zapdos, Cresselia, and Mega Absol, and the New Orleans Pelipers brought Mega Lopunny, Reuniclus, Bisharp, Miltank, Gastrodon, and Landorus Therian. Now, I'm sure you guys know that this was the longest battle because it ended up going down to timer. The combination of Ditto switching into the Reuniclus, and then the Gastrodon, and the Miltank, and then the Miltank sitting in front of Entei, so it couldn't really do much. Granbull actually having the heal bill, as John was just so desperately trying to get Toxics off, didn't end up working. Mid-game, we get the Cresselia versus Reuniclus showdown, which is the Combines. I think it was also great to point out that although it was going really quick, if you looked at John's point of view, he did get that prediction with the Signal Beam onto the Cresselia from Reuniclus, so that was great on his part. A crit, obviously the hacks ended up going poorly after that, so the Cresselia ended up going down, but then the Reuniclus versus Ditto showdown didn't work out so much for the Reuniclus, kind of karma in a sense, as the confusion hacks came in from Signal Beam, so really a game of all types of hacks. After that, there was just, again, a lot of switching, the Zapdos coming in. I think we have another showdown between just a lot of different Pokemon. We have just insanity. The Bisharp coming in, getting +1 from the Granbull, and then kind of turning it around. The static on the Zapdos as Lopunny attacked it made John forget that since he was slower, Ditto could come back on the Mega Lopunny, trace its Mega Lopunny before it could switch out. So that was huge, but it ended up going in John's favor as he kept 5 Pokemon around to the end of the timer, while Geo could only snag up 3. Of course, there was also the prediction on the Mega Absol with the Signal Beam, which I want to point out, but other than that, just a really stally match with, between really stally Pokemon. Really funny to see they both brought Pokemon, the Granbull and the Miltank, which they swapped, actually giving each other a lot of problems, but a huge match. There's a lot to talk about, but we're just going to sum that up for you.
Yeah, I mean, this match was the definition of kind of a stalling match. I mean, how often do you see two matchups, I guess, really showdowns between +6/+6? I mean, you had the Skarmory versus the Skarmory. No, not Skarmory. Why am I saying Skarmory? You had the Reuniclus versus the Cresselia. You had the then Reuniclus versus the Ditto, and I mean, really, just the match came down to one play, and that was the Signal Beam prediction onto the Absol. So I mean, great play there. That's really all you can say about that. That was just such a phenomenal play, and that's really just what determined the game from that point, because the match went to time. There was really no more real events that occurred of any consequence. So a bit unfortunate that the match had to go to time, but I think to save all of us from just a life of horrible stall, that it was for the best. But anyway, that is it for the matches from this week. Let's just go ahead and jump right on over to the league standings, and you will see that once again the two relative newbies are at the top of the entire list. And I mean, I don't even think we can call them newbies anymore, just because they've shown their proficiency in this format and just how good they are with MV and the Chimchargers leading the red division, while Chimpact and the Scizors lead the gold division. And Chimpact actually owns the best differential in the entire league at +20, and MV is a close second at +17.
Yeah, and this is normally the point where I want to say, well, when you look at the bottom, you still see great teams. Now, as much as that is true, we're at week 8, there are only 4 weeks left, this is basically what you're looking at right now, the idea of what the season is looking like. The New York Metapods didn't perform as well as they, would like to this season, and they know that. The San Jose Sharpedos didn't perform as well as they wanted to this season, and you know that. Same with the Saucebucks, and same with Mew Castle United. So, of course they are still amazing battlers. You can't put that behind them. They are great battlers. But you could tell how the season is kind of built just by looking at this. Even though, the season's far from over, we don't have that much. We're pretty much 2/4 of the way through it, a few more matches left, but this is what you're looking at right now, the basic gist of how this season is going to look like when we look back on it after all 12 weeks. But let's just move on into the league leaders, which is always fun to look at, because sitting up on top, we have Landorus Incarnate from the Blue Russia Dawn fans with 14 total kills and 3 deaths. Following it, we have Megalopony from the New Orleans Pelipers with 12 kills and 5 deaths. Megalopony almost always at the top of these towards the end of the season. But then we have Salamence from the Atlanta Luchas with 10 kills and 2 deaths. After that, we have Latias and Victini with 10 kills, 3 deaths, 4 deaths. And then we have Infernape as well with 10 kills but 7 deaths. Then after that, we have Talonflame, 9 kills, 3 deaths, and then Mega, Alakazam, Volcanion, and Weavile all with their 9 kills and 5 deaths.
Yeah, I mean, that's really how it should be. I mean, I was kind of excited early on because you saw some UU pokes getting some love, but I mean, really the only three really that deserve too much love are Infernape, Salamence, and Victini just because of their versatility. And I mean, Landorus, you cannot deny that sheer force is absolutely ridiculous, and all of these Pokemon are more than deserving of being in the top 10. So kudos to them, kudos to their coaches, and I mean, unless you have anything else to say, I think that is all we have for the week.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. And this is Styx, signing out.
Peace.